a sophisticated guy in your approach to gun rights advocacy, and that's why I want you to be here when we talk about outreach and reaching people outside of sort of the echo chamber. Some of the
Mhm.
people in the echo chamber might not know who you are, what you do. They might not know about the Black Ops documentary. They might not know about the gun. They might not know about any of it. So give me the 45 seconds to 1 minute. Boom, Argo J.
I'm Argo J, and I like guns. I never really considered myself an advocate. I consider myself an American who just has a massive appreciation for firearms and a respect for what they mean to us as American citizens. So I thought that I would share my thoughts and my plight with the world in that regard. So I've been doing so for the last almost, I don't know, how long have we known each other? Almost 10 so years. Yeah, it's been a while. It's
It's been a long time.
Damn, it's
So
been a while. So 2003 is when I really got started. And then I think we met sometime after that. So, yeah.
I would call it 2010-ish, something like that. So I
hmm
was probably still doing like outdoor channel stuff and whatnot. So
I used to watch you on Outdoor Channel. Like, this dude is super sexy. Like,
I
like,
can see that. I can see
yeah,
that. I'm a little
yeah,
older now. I'm still sexy. So,
yeah.
the so
You had hair.
you had a little publicity stunt a couple days ago that I was concerned about you, man. I was like, oh no, what's going on with Jay? Because all of a sudden it was like you said you were done with guns, and then you did a live, and I was actually out on a date, be it trying to be sexy, and so I didn't get to hear it all. But
hmm
let's use that as a jumping off point rather than the last 15 plus years of what you've done. Because by the way, I think that the kind of advocacy that you say you didn't consider yourself an advocate, I think that's the most important advocacy we can do, which is just
hmm
sort of like letting our own thought process and our own responsible gun ownership and our own reasons for being involved in the gun community, let all of that be the advocacy, right? But you also try to share some explicit messages, and you also try to empower. You share your bandwidth with other people and share some messages. So, talk to me about what you were talking about this last week when you said you were done with guns.
Uh, well, I'd definitely be a shock jock if I was on the radio. You know what I mean? Like, I'm that kind of guy. Like, I really don't care because I think everything is about the end result, and whatever you determine your end result to be, how passionate you are about that will determine the means in which you choose to go about getting that and achieving that. So I put up this post. This was the first one. I don't know if you can see. I'm fucking done with guns. I'm done. And then put up another post shortly after that that said, gun control, gun violence, gun deaths. He had a gun, in quotes. Too many reasons to not what does it say? Too many reasons to list for not dealing with guns anymore. Uh, and first of all, let me say thank you to everybody that reached out, because there were a lot of people that were concerned that something was going on or that something happened, and I just decided to put guns to the wayside. Um, and I was like, no, I'm good. So it showed me who my true friends were and who the real people were. So I want to say thank you to those people who were genuinely checking on me and genuinely concerned. That was pretty awesome. Wasn't really done with guns. Um, it was more so for the shock value of it because I wanted to prove a point. I wanted to prove the point that our words are powerful, and the word gun in and of itself has become, as nomenclature would have it, a very negative word, you know, uh, or the association or the connotation is now negative. If you look at the connotative meaning like not the actual meaning of the word gun, but what is thought of when you hear it and the emotions and feelings that it evokes when you hear the word gun, most times they're negative, and especially the way the word gun is used in the media. And I believe that has a negative impact and effect, and negatively affects, because effect and affect are different, people, if you don't know. And it has a negative effect and affect on the way we fight our battles in the 2A community. I believe it has a negative impact, effect, and effect on new gun owners who are potentially nervous or on the fence or just not really solid. And I think that we have to choose our words more carefully, and we have to begin to do the same things that the anti-gunners do and use all the little small minutia to help fight this battle. You know, they implement, they know exactly what they're doing when they demonize that word. So let's take that away from them. Let's start calling this thing now a firearm.
In full disclosure, I did reach out to you, right?
Absolutely.
And I said, you know, I like, hey, whatever, man, I respect you and your decisions. I'm sure I think I said something like, I'm looking forward to the conversation, but whatever,
Yeah.
you know, I give you the support. And then, you said, you kind of let me in. Like, I think you genuinely knew I was concerned about you, and you're like, oh, you know, no, nothing's horrible. And then I think I told you to, like, fuck off then for messing with my emotions.
Absolutely.
But then after I figured out, you know, after you told me what was going on, I told you, I said, well, actually, and I don't think I've talked about this on any of the lives. I just was one of the authors on a paper that's been submitted to a medical journal dealing with terminology, dealing with this exact issue. And, you know, it's suicide issues, it's gang violence or inner city violence issues, and then firearms issues. And it's a guide from people who are in those three spaces of how to talk about things better, to be more effective. Yeah, that right there, for the people that are affected by it, right? So in other words, like, one of the things I've learned from the mental health community is you don't say attempted suicide, right? As if someone, like, is a failure because they didn't take their own life. Or you don't say committed suicide like it's a crime. So one of the things I had said was, do not use the word gun, use the word firearm. So if you're a doctor saying, do you own guns, right? You don't say, do you own guns, because even if you don't even mean to, the way you inflect that idea that the word gun can be emotionally charged and inflected way easier than firearm can. And quite honestly, it already has been charged with a bunch of emotion, as you pointed out. So literally, this was on my mind. Like, that paper was just submitted last week to a medical journal, and here you are completely separately coming to this conclusion that this needs to be addressed in our community as well.
Here's how it came about. I was gonna make a post in jest about not liking guns anymore, and then, you know, make a whole Glock versus M&P thing. But then I got to thinking, when I typed it, something was just resonated with me, you know, in a bad way though, when I was looking at the word gun as I typed it. Eventually I was like, well, if I feel this way, maybe there's somebody else who feels this way on the other end, on the receiving end of that word, you know, and let's not scare them. Let's not run them. Let's not make that word, because we fight this fight all the time to say, you know, our firearms are precious to us. Let's not demonize them. Let's not villainize them. Let's start doing the small things to make that change. And that's where that post was born. That's how that post was born.
All right, so now let's pick up, because I want people. Did you put that on your IGTV so people can go back and see your live?
I can. I did. I mean, yeah.
Good. So go check that out later. Go check that out at Argo J's Instagram TV. This now jumps into the real crux of this series, which is, how do we and or should we worry about reaching out to people that are outside of the gun community, is the first part of it. And what you just said, I think, falls into the category. Sometimes I get pushback. People tell me that in even asking this question or worrying about talking to people outside of the gun community, I'm complying, or I'm compromising, or I'm catering, or I'm pandering, or I'm letting them win because they control the playing field. And I'm like, look, if I want to influence somebody, I've got to go on to their playing field. I can't just say, you know, if I'm just talking to entertain somebody on the internet, I can say all kinds of things about guns and, you know, Molon Levey and come and take them and cold dead hands and all this stuff shall not be infringed. But if I'm trying to talk to somebody who's already hedging towards pro-gun control, I believe I need to change my vernacular to reach them. I'm assuming then that you would agree?
I 100% agree in the sentiment. You know what I mean? I do. Like, it matters sometimes. You know, I can't continue to preach to the choir and expect the world to change outside of that choir room. You know what I mean? Outside of that choir box, people don't sing. You know what I mean? And if they're not singing, then I have to say, you know, hey, why don't you use your voice? How am I going to get you to start singing as well? So it's like we have to start talking outside of the echo chamber, and we have to start speaking to and in language that people outside can relate to and apply it. We have to make things applicable to people because somebody might be on, let's say I'm a single dad, right? And I don't live in a shitty part of town, but I want to have a firearm to protect my family. But I've never had a firearm, and I've been strictly, not necessarily anti-gun, but I was probably leaning that way. This is all hypothetical. When I go to get help or ask questions, and we all know the bravado that comes along with gun ownership and the alpha male, everybody wants to be an alpha, female and male. It can be daunting when people throw that word out there at you, because when you hear it, your brain doesn't associate it with what, subconsciously, it doesn't associate it with what you have a desire to do. It associates it with everything that you've heard using that word gun. Okay? It goes into its memory banks, and it starts cycling through the things that you have heard in the news, read in the newspaper, the fight for gun control, this, that, and the other. It cycles through all of that shit before you can even process the fact that this is the same tool that I'm potentially thinking about getting to protect my family. Okay? So we have to be careful. And on the other part of that is, this is the exact same thing that people who are fighting to get rid of guns do. They take this word and they make it such a negative thing. Like, the denotative and connotative meanings of a word are important to me. Like, denotative means, of course, for those of you that don't know, the actual definition. All right, actually what it means. It's a firearm, it's a tool, blah, blah, blah. The connotative meaning, this is, it's horrific. It's horrific. It's frightening. It's a three-letter word, but it's one of the biggest three-letter words next to, well, if you say guns, it's one of the biggest 3 or 4-letter words out there. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful, like what we say, because there is a fight, and the fight is getting stronger. The Second Amendment has been under attack forever. Okay, in some way, shape, or form. We know that, but the fights are getting stronger now. Okay, and I'm not too worried about 127, HR 127, although I am worried about executive fiat, and things like that. But we have to give ourselves the basis from which to fight from. We have to give ourselves ammunition, no pun intended, but pun intended, to fight this fight. We have to be able to fight the fight, and we can't do that if we're doing things that go against everything that we're trying to say. So,
all right. So so now then you kind of went into this next area, which is after we talk about, do we even worry about the way people outside of the gun community hear us, right? Because I keep hearing like the, cold dead hands kind of stuff, whatever the current version of that is, with the idea that you can draw a line in the sand, right? So I'm just going to sit here and say to a bunch of people who want to enact gun control, well, if you do, I'm not going to comply at this point. I'm not going to turn in my AR, or I'm not going to get a carry permit, or I'm not going to whatever, as if that's going to make it less likely to happen, right? Like, as if somebody on the other side is going to go, oh, well, shoot, if they're not going to comply, let's just not pass that law. And I think that's ludicrous. So now we get to what I think is a really important crux of the conversation, which is, it's not even the person outside of the community, but now you're talking about somebody who's either just come into the community or is interested in coming into the community. How do you deal with the fact that they're not pounding on the table saying shall not be infringed? They might even say, you know what? I don't know if I ever would want to own an AR. I don't even know if I think ARs are cool, or you should be able to own an AR, but I definitely want to be able to own a handgun to protect myself. How do you, where are you on not just the emotion of it, but the intellectual level? How do you deal with that person coming into the gun community? Are they in the gun community, or are they not allowed in until they're 100%.
No, you have to. Everybody starts somewhere. Everybody does. You know, I remember a time where I was scared when people would bring guns out in a room. You know, before I got involved into it, you know, wholeheartedly, I was afraid because I didn't know. And it's what you don't know scares you. With my 8-year-old son, and I just went through a whole thing about him walking from the living room to his room in the dark. Okay, because in his mind, something's going to jump. This is what he said. So what if something jumps out and gets me? But he doesn't realize that nothing is going to jump out and get him. So what I'm saying is you don't know what you don't know. And that's okay. That's okay. We all have to start someplace. We can't expect everybody to jump in feet first and then day one they're commandos. No, we can't expect that. We have to take the baby steps necessary, or the steps necessary, on an individual basis. Okay, on an individual basis. We can't push people away, and we do that a lot. You know, we do that a lot in the community. We cannibalize each other. We cannibalize self. We ostracize newbies. We ostracize those who are ignorant instead of reaching out and saying, hey, let me help you with that. You know, Maj Touré did something wonderful. I don't know if you saw the video of the girl with the fat ass in the rain shooting and just shooting all wild and willy-nilly. The whole internet was up in arms about it.
Yeah.
But instead of shitting on her, he reached out and said, hey, reach out. I don't know if he ever made contact with her. Reach out to me. Let's get you some training. Let's get you right so that we don't have any mistakes, so you don't hurt yourself, hurt somebody else. You know what I mean? That's the approach that we need. Okay, we have to nurture people. We have to nurture people. We have to build them. Okay, because my interest was already there in gun, but somebody else's might not have been. My dad will be 83 this year. He bought his first gun last year, 2020.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? 2020, my dad, 82 years old, I'm taking him to the range, and I'm like, Dad, so, you know, I'm joking. I said to my dad, I said, look, so now you're ready to protect yourself, huh? He said, no, son. I didn't get this to protect me. I got this to protect your mom. You know what I mean? But it took him, you know, they've been married 53 years. So it took him 52 years to understand that. You understand? So you don't know what you don't know. You know, you don't know. And the whole thing about, you know, my dad's a Democrat. Hardcore. Wasn't necessarily anti-gun, but hardcore liberal. Okay? But lived a life full of conservative values, which was always confusing to me. But anyway, but now, you know, we can't continue to politically alienate people either, because those two are relative, even though, you know, they're not the same thing. You know, we can't continue to do that because that's the same thing. Everybody has this right.
Yeah, if you voted for Biden, you can't be a gunner. I mean, you just spelled it out, right? Your dad's a diehard Democrat in terms of his voting, in terms of his values, apparently conservative and liberal values together. And as you said, he's a diehard Democrat, but not anti-gun. We all know those people exist. Unless you're in a real small echo chamber, you know there are people who are diehard liberals or diehard Democratic voters that also own guns and also would defend the Second Amendment. Now, I believe we really need to recruit them into being louder, and we don't do that if we shame them or ostracize them. So that's sort of what gets us to that last question is, now, you talked about people, we can't expect people to start, right, from like level 10, right? So we can't expect people to start from all gun laws or infringements. What about the gun owner who's owned guns for his whole life, 20 years, 10 years, decades, who comes in and says, yeah, you know what, I'm okay with universal background checks. And maybe it's because they don't understand it. They need to be educated that that's the end of you being able to give your daughter or son a gift of a gun. It's the end of private transfers. It's the beginning of mass registration, right? Or maybe they do understand all that and they're still okay with it. Are they part of the gun community? How do you deal with that group? Because I know there's a lot of gun owners who would not sign off on vending machine guns at the middle school with no limits, no restrictions whatsoever. So how do we deal with them?
I mean, you deal with them like you deal with anybody you disagree with. Let them feel how they fucking feel. You know what I mean? Like I will never knock somebody for having the feelings that they feel. I stopped a long time ago trying to change people's minds because that's something that humans have bad. I feel a way, now I have to change your mind to make you feel that way. But the thing is, your mind won't change until you're ready to change your mind. So I can't continue to hit you like this because that's literally what it is. I'm hitting you in the head with what I believe, and it's now becoming abusive. It's now becoming overbearing, and you lose people that way. Okay, and you lose people that way. So we have to nurture. I'm not saying baby. I'm not babying anybody, but we have to nurture. We have to build it like a child. You don't have a newborn and say, all right, get up, little motherfucker, and walk. Like, you don't do that. You don't do that shit. You know what I mean? Get up and walk. I'm 2 weeks old. I got jelly legs and jelly neck. I can't fucking do it. But it's like, we have to nurture that child, build them up, get them strong. Let the time pass that needs to pass for them to be able to support themselves. And that's what we have to do in the gun community. However long a person needs is however long a person needs. The one thing that's constant is the fact that they are on board with firearms. So let's start there. Let's start there. Let's not go backwards. Let's build from that common platform. Let's use our commonalities. You know what? I'm a dad. You're a dad. We got daughters. We got kids. I love my kids. I'll blow up the world for my kids. You blow up the world for your kids. You know what I mean? So let's start there. Let's start at our commonalities. Okay? Damn the fact that I'm black and Jewish. Damn the fact that I'm not Jewish, y'all. I'm just talking shit. But damn the fact that I'm black. Damn the fact that he's white. You know what I mean? Who gives a shit? Damn the fact that I'm a conservative and he's more of a moderate, right? Conservative moderate. Or how do you identify?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about. You think I'm white? That's why.
No.
Why are you trying to pigeonhole me?
I
thought you were talking about some hypothetical guy.
I am.
Yes.
I was just asking. Right.
I am a libertarian, independent, moderate, socially liberal, fiscally and defensively conservative anomaly, I guess, because nobody else wants to be that.
So all that shit he just said, guess what? I don't give a shit. So what? Right. So what? We are American citizens who love our families, who love life, who want to make this place better for those that we love that will come after us. That's all that matters. Let's go from there and let's keep moving up. Okay? If somebody decides, go ahead, brother.
No, I'm glad that you're getting there because you got there, because that's where I like to try to get to is if we start the conversation saying, well, of course, and I think all reasonable advocates or educators do, they understand we have to talk to the people that are pro-gun control. We have to talk to people that are gun agnostic. We have to talk to people that are gun ignorant in order to stem the whatever social movement there might be towards gun control. We have to talk to the people that aren't already pro-gun, obviously, or there wouldn't be that movement. So if we're talking to them, how can we tell somebody who's like, yeah, I don't know about ARs, that they can't even come to the range with us, or they can't buy our hat, or they can't use our range or join our club? I mean, to me, those are the people, as you said, we already have this huge common ground, like they own guns, right? They're not saying all guns, they're not saying pacifism, they're not saying give up guns and the world will be great. They're not saying, well, why don't we just let the UN come in and take over and they'll protect us from anybody. Like they're already on board with guns, especially defensive guns the last decade. That's why people buy guns. And yet a lot of people want to put up these walls inside of the gun community. And I get it. Like, I can be judgy and I can be like mad, and I do like the idea of policing our own, but I'm way more interested in policing the guy who's, be not storing his guns properly around kids, or the guy who's out at the range being a jackass, or the guy who's wearing a, kill them all, let God sort them out, yay America pro-gun t-shirt at some rally embarrassing the community. I'm way more interested in criticizing them than the person who's saying, hey, I just want a gun to protect myself. I don't think I need 30 rounds. Let's have a conversation.
And me, like, I don't think, like, let's say we went to a rally and somebody had that shirt on. I don't think it's an embarrassment to the community, because whatever, he feels that way, whatever. However, that person who's on the fence, or that person who doesn't know, is going to look at that and garner some sort of idea in their own head, in their own way. And whatever idea that is, it may not be positive, and it may push them away. And that's why I said what I said about not using the word gun, and let's start changing it and using the word firearm more, because those situations will lessen if it happens. Maybe that situation doesn't play out the way, or those thoughts don't come the way that they would have come, you know, if we would have these conversations and start softening, or start bringing things back to normal as far as the definition and the meanings and the association with the words. You know what I mean? Because, you know, a white guy puts on that shirt, all of a sudden he's a racist, and he's a white supremacist, even though I don't subscribe to the theory of white supremacy, or any supremacy for that matter, because nobody's supreme to anybody. We're all humans on the earth, so damn that. So anyway, but you know, let's do it. So we just hosted a BGM class here in Milwaukee, Black Guns Matter class here in Milwaukee at WFTC. You've used that range, WFTC, every time you come here, every time. Okay. I had somebody literally tell me and text me. I said, "Hey, come through." A black guy said, "Hey, come through." I said, "Nah, man, that's not the place to be." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Man, Proud Boys be up. Proud Boys work up there. And every time I go up there, you know, there's all kind of cops and feds up there shooting." I said, "So what?" I said, "So what? You're going to, so let's say that's true," which it's not. Let's say that's true. So you're going to say that, "Go ahead, you got this, Mr. Master. I'm going to stay in my place and not go over here." No, fuck you. I'm going, and I'm going to get in the lane right next to you, and I'm going to rat hole the fuck out of that X-ring, and then I'm going to look at you and smirk, and then continue to empty the rest of my rounds downrange. You know what I mean? And that's it. And that's it.
Yeah,
Speaking about,
you've been in a class there with me. There was a lot of diversity on that range.
Two
There's a lot of
classes.
diversity in
Two classes.
the staff there. There's a lot of diversity. The husband and wife that own the place. I mean, that the whole idea that place is some kind of mecca for white supremacy is just like, no.
The misinformation that comes out is what shifts the identity in society. So if I continue to say, you know, X, Y, and Z, that that all black people are murderers and all black people are thugs and killers, and they're uneducated and they smoke drugs and the fathers are absent from the home and this, that, and the other, you will believe that. When the image is put out there, people will buy it, because there's work to be done to find out differently. People do not want to do work, period. They just don't want to work. They want it thrown at you. I lost followers behind those posts, because they thought I was serious, especially with the second post. You know.
But what's amazing about that is without I'm assuming you lost them without a conversation, without
no conversation.
Why, without any curiosity whatsoever. It's just like, oh, you feel that way? Beep. Cancel culture.
But guess what? I don't give a fuck. Bye. No. It's like the garbage taking itself out. I love that shit. Automation is great. So
that is called curating the audience.
Yeah. So but it's so you're just all along for the thrills. That's what you want. You want to see cool guns and all the cool shit that I have, and all that. But you really don't want to participate in the work. You know what I'm saying? Or you want the work to be done, but you want somebody else to do it for you and give it to you, and you just sit back and do nothing. It doesn't work like that. So those posts were meant to evoke a response, to elicit some emotional reactions in people, because I needed them to tie that in to my reasoning behind what I said about why we should get rid of the word guns. I wanted people to. Everybody thought something, even you, everybody thought something bad happened or bad was going on. It was never, like, there was no, and of course I worded it that way, but you know, there was no possibility of there being anything great or joyful coming from that. None.
Well,
Do
no,
this
you
for
know
us.
what? I will tell you. So you know Ken Blanchard.
Yeah.
So Ken, who I think I was first on his radio show, his podcast, like in 2005 or something, like way back. And so we've known each other forever. And when he said he was going to step back from gun rights advocacy, there was no anger, there was no trauma, there was no whatever. He just said, I'm just going to shift a little bit. I'm going to, play my guitar, smoke a cigar, talk about leadership and mentorship and men being men. But I'm going to back off from the gun thing because of the toxicity and the debate and all. He felt like, I guess, he could do more good. And I saw that as a very positive thing for him personally, and congratulated him on making that move that he needed to make for him. It didn't mean he was anti-gun, didn't mean he was going to vote against guns, didn't mean he was giving up his guns personally. It just meant he was stepping back from the fight. So honestly, that was, in my mind, of all the possible things, because I had read where you said there was nothing traumatic, there's nothing bad. So, okay, it's not a negligent discharge, it's not an arrest, it's not, whatever. So, I was open to the idea that maybe you, for whatever reason, professional, personal, you were making a turn that you were just going to step back from the gun thing, right? I didn't picture you giving up all your guns if it wasn't some kind of legal traumatic issue. So I just assumed you were stepping back. Like in my worst case scenario brain, there still was a potential positive for you personally. And I just don't think, I think you're right. Like a lot of people don't have room for that. One of the possibilities clearly in my head was that you needed for your own personal brain space to step back from the fight. And that to me seems reasonable. You don't owe me advocacy. You don't owe the gun community advocacy,
Right. We have to adjust. Being educated means you have to, or there's a possibility to have to rethink some things that you have already thought or been taught, okay, or believed to be true. That's what education is, okay? You may have to let go of some shit that you were holding on to, all right? You may have to act or think differently because you're educated. That the hypocrisy is what keeps us stagnant. It keeps us from growing. It keeps us individually stagnant. It keeps us collectively stagnant. And we have to change that. I'm not saying that you have to do everything in your life differently, but start small, okay? And if everybody takes or becomes invested into making small changes, I think holistically or collectively rather, we'll see a larger or grand scale change in the community, because this fight is ongoing and we need every little bit of ground that we can get. We do. So we have to become tolerant to those people who differ from us in whatever ways. I don't always agree with people politically, and we get into political conversations, but those are political conversations. If they're anti-gun, they're just anti-gun, and that's who they are. But if they're gun people and they're politically different, even though I don't agree with them and I feel like I should smack them upside the head because I don't agree, because they're not getting it, that's still their right. And I'm not going to impose myself and my ideas on them.
Complete lockstep, right? Unity. A lot of times people like unity, and what they really mean is conformity, and that's not where we should be.
That's not the same thing. That's not what you mean. And I refuse to conform. I will unite, and I will fight besides people who don't look like me, don't think like me, don't walk like me, or talk like me. I'll fight with you all day long as we can find that one commonality to keep pushing. All right. And I can put all that other shit aside. So we need to absolutely be more tolerant with ourselves. Okay, we have to become more aware, and we have to become more cognizant of how we present if we want to affect change overall. So, and it takes the small things. It's the small things that start. Everything starts this big. The biggest thing in the world started this fucking big. So we have to pay attention to the minutia. You can also check out my website. There's a blog coming soon. It's argoj.com. Matter of fact, I just released some cool shirts. The shirt is, and there are 4 different colors. There's a black shirt, blue shirt, gray shirt, white shirt, and I have women's shirts too. argoj.com. You can grab a shirt, support my mission, my personal mission in this world when it comes to Second Amendment. You can support the documentary. We didn't even talk about that, but we'll do that at another time. You can go on the website and read about the documentary, though.
I'm gonna put a link under in the YouTube in the description. I'll put a link to the website, to the shirts, to the Black Ops documentary, and to
Just
the
the
Bravo
website covers
Oscar.
it all. Yep,
And
the website covers it all. www.argoj.com. 3 A's.
3A.